Hey guys, I want to show you my new Diablo 4 build. I've been working on this pretty much nonstop since Diablo came out. This is a Minion Shadowblight build. So you can see I've gotten the maximum number of minions up I can get. I got 6 skeletons, 5 mages, and a golem. In this strategy, they are going to do the vast majority of the damage. I'm there to support and heal them and to spread blight everywhere. Blight will convert to shadow damage in this build and trigger Shadowblight and just start melting the enemies. So it's important in this build to get as many of these pets up as you can, then maintain their health. So I'm going to go over some of my key items in the build, and then we'll go over abilities and stuff next. So. There's obviously a bunch of options here, but I use Iron Maiden Curse and Blight. I don't use the base skill Decrepify or Decompose anymore. I actually just use Iron Maiden and Blight. So this is a buff to Iron Maiden that means there's a 22% chance that they'll get stunned every time I hit them with Iron Maiden, and I do that all the time to open up the fight. So this increases the maximum number of skeletal warriors. You definitely want to have that. There's another one for mages down here. This is a really key effect. So every 10 seconds, your cold skeletal mages will cast Blizzard, do a bunch of blizzard damage, and it continuously chills enemies and makes them vulnerable. So this is great for big monsters and crowd control. We have 5 mages up in this build. They're all casting that, doing tons of damage and making everything vulnerable. This is lots of crowd control and lots of direct damage on the mages. This is definitely the way to run mages in this build for sure. Let's see. So here anytime we get 7 or more minions up, you've got a 16% increase to damage reduction. So that makes us a little tankier. This gives me 2 more skeletal mages. So that brings my total up to 5. And this is kind of one of the spots where you can play around with the build. I chose to have this where I deal 10% increased damage for each second I stand still. So a lot of times in a fight, if I'm not dodging ground effects, I'm just standing still and casting blight. So if I can do that for 3 seconds at a time, I get a 30% bonus to my damage, and stuff just starts melting. This is really required. We're going to use Army of the Dead. You want that number percentage to be up as high as possible. This is while Army of the Dead is active, your minions gain a giant attack speed and take 90% reduced damage. So while we've got our ultimate skill up, the Army of the Dead, and it's running, we double our attack speed and we take 90% reduced damage. That makes your pets way tanky, way tanky. That greatly increases your survivability, and you don't have to heal them as much. So if you're popping that in a boss fight, it's really useful. This is another key to this build because we're using the Shadowblight ultimate passive. We're not going to use the Minion ultimate passage. We're going to use Shadowblight. This increases Shadowblight's damage and makes it so that if I cast Shadowblight multiple times, within 10 seconds, it does a stacking 36% damage increase. So I'm just melting faces if I cast Shadowblight over and over again. And that's how I like to open up the fight. So you're maximizing your use of damage there. This makes it so that your skeletons are dealing increased damage by 20% as long as they're alive. They're all going to stay alive because they're plenty tanky. That's not a concern. This is another key effect. You deal 138% increased damage for 6 seconds after the Shadowblight key passage takes effect or damages 10 enemies 10 times. So this is again leveraging that Shadowblight ultimate skill, stacking on top of that to get even more damage. So those are the legendary effects that I run. Let's take a look at who I'm running here on Minions. I run the Reapers because I want this effect. Reapers have a chance to carve off flesh from a corpse. We're going to be using Miasma and Corpse Explosion a lot to give us a big damage, an AoE damage over time, and really melt some faces. So I run the Reapers with this. We want the cold skeletal mages, and you can do this either way you want. So each time your mages damage an enemy with their primary attack, it gives you essence. I'm taking care of our essence needs otherwise, so I choose to make those targets vulnerable so that they take increased damage and they go down faster. So that's critical, especially once you get that legendary effect that lets them cast Blizzard and makes everything vulnerable. Psh, man, mages are really doing a lot of crowd control and doing a lot of damage for you. So as you're coming up, before you get real tanky, you probably want to run the Blood Golem, just because it's easier to keep him alive. But once you get sufficiently tanky, I switch over to Iron, and then I run the vulnerable attack. Every time you make the Golem attack, it does an additional vulnerable for 3 seconds. You can also do just the damage with the shockwave. That works out really, really well. So let's take a look at the build here. This is a little interesting compared to what I'm seeing a lot of people run. I need 2 points in something to open up the tree, but this is not even on my bar. I don't use decompose. What I do use is blight. So I have blight maxed out. Blight also slows enemies. That's important because it gives you additional crowd control, and we're going to leverage doing damage extra stuff to slow enemies. So you want that, and you want your minions to deal increased damage with blight. So every time we cast that, we're getting increased damage. And I didn't put points in Bloodlance. One of my items is letting me do that. The next setup to look for is Corpse Explosion. Get all of the Corpse Explosion for sure, because this is not only how we're going to increase our damage, but it's also going to let us get back our essence so that we can pump out those streams of blight over and over again. So you want Corpse Explosion, and you want the enhanced, and you want the make sure it becomes darkness damage, because that's gonna be key later. I also think it's really important to get 3 points as soon as you can in Grim Harvest to generate essence off of those corpses that you're going to be exploding. This gives you more damage based off Corpse Explosion, but it's not necessary. I would just put extra points in that as they become available. Then we're going to use Iron Maiden. I specifically use Iron Maiden over Decrepify. Because Decrepify slows stuff down, that's its main function. I'm already slowing them down with Blight, so I don't need to waste extra on that. I'm just going to use Iron Maiden to do extra damage. And then it's also going to stun them because of that legendary ability I'm running on one of my items. So this is real important to lay down. It also costs us 0 mana. It gives us essence back every time we cast it. And you get a heal every time something that's got this curse on it dies. So it's going to take care of your health for use. So that's why I run Iron Maiden over Decrepify. Here, I don't use corpse tendrils, and I actually, if I had extra points, I would build this darkness tree out, but I just haven't found it to be necessary. You do want this, though. You want necrotic carapace. When a corpse is formed from your skills, your minions fortify for 6%. That's going to make everything much more tanky. It's going to greatly increase your survivability. So we're going to get Golem Mastery. We're going to max out Army of the Dead, and we're going to max out all the minion tree stuff here to make our minions maxed out. And you'll see most of the people running a build like this will run the Edict. I don't like running the Edict for this because I don't feel like that 15% attack speed, even though I'm running a bunch of minions, I don't think it does as much damage as stacking Shadowblight, making your minions deal an extra 10% bonus to enemies. We're throwing Shadowblight everywhere in this build, so this makes this way more face melty with the items that we have. So this is a better choice for us. Let's also talk about real quick the what we look for on the white properties for magic items. This is really important. You want to get extra ranks of corpse skills. That fueled by death passage is nice because it increases my mobility. But all the corpse skills are really nice because we're running all that stuff. You want to look for maximum minion life in your jewelry. That's and in your chest piece, you'll see that most often. So I do that, and then anything that gives me essence or critical damage. This gives me cold damage. Anything that gives you damage to crowd controlled or slowed, because everything's going to be blighted. You definitely want to increase that. So this is another. I put this on for the primarily for the minion life, and then crowd control duration because I'm running a bunch of crowd control measures. Damage to slowed is really important here. That's why I chose that one. Damage to crowd controlled, and then lucky hit as much as you can get. You know what I mean? I pulled that for the or picked this for the essence reduction and the intelligence. I've got a really good pull on maximum life here and intelligence and 2 free ranks of corpse explosion and +2 potion capacity. That was really a boon there. That gives me Blood Lance. If I'm going to keep this long term, I'll probably swap that out because I'm not even using Blood Lance, but I really like the critical strike. Ultimately, I'll probably find another handpiece for that. I really don't care about the strength or the dexterity. I got this for the maximum life. This is my best option for maximum life at the time, and then life regeneration and blood orbs because I'm always picking up blood orbs. I also like that this gives me 2 free ranks of Iron Maiden, so that was really important to the build. So let's go have some fun with it, and I'll show you guys how I run the build. Is this the right one? Cultist Refuge, yep. So out of the gate, I'm going to hit Curse and Blight. I'm going to use Curse and Blight over and over again till everything has got Blight all over it. As soon as that happens, so there's my Curse, get everything cursed, get everything blighted so it's slowed. And then I'm going to blow up all of the corpses to release miasma. That refills my mana. And then I'm good to go for another round of blight. We'll get into a real good fight, and I'll use the golem here. So, okay. So I've got the doorway blighted. I'm going to use the golem to make everything vulnerable. And then I'm going to do corpse explosion, get all my mana back. See what's available. We got everything down. So I got to track these guys down. But you can see I haven't had to heal any of my guys yet. I probably won't. It takes a really good pack of elites to make me even have to throw a heal. If you're running this build, it wasn't immediately apparent to me. But if you've got your maximum number of skeletons up and you cast Summon Skeleton again on a corpse, I'm going the wrong way, it will pull out a priest that will heal your skeletons instead of summoning you a new one. The priest doesn't stay up, but it does continue to heal for several minutes. So you'll notice I'm putting Curse down and I'm putting Blight down, and then on Miasma. Do Miasma, and then if I've still got some stuff up, I'll use my Golem, but I won't even use Army. I keep getting caught by that. I won't use my ultimate until I'm really in a pack of elites or a boss fight, because it's just not even necessary. The shadow keeps catching me. But you can see clearly I don't need Decompose. I don't need a core skill. I get plenty of mana back from corpses and from casting Iron Maiden over and over again. That gives me mana back and it keeps me healed up. And if I can stand still, everything just melts. So that's the Minion pet build using Shadowblight as the ultimate. Hope you guys enjoy this build. If you guys make a character and you have some feedback, hit me up in comments. I would love to see what y'all have to say.